What's up, guys? Welcome to the sesh. Rob.
Hey, what's up, everybody? We're back.
So we have been on a workout journey, exercise journey for the past 5 months.
Yeah.
We just started this week is our 5th month, and we have a special guest here that's kind of open our eyes to the world of fitness and nutrition. And kind of introduce yourself. Tell people who you are if they don't know who you are.
My name is Bonnie Wood, and I'm a certified personal trainer through NASM. I got my start in fitness just like most people, just wanting to be in good shape. And I would say my earliest encounters with fitness in like elementary school and PE and things like that, I hated it. I did team sports, but hated it because I like to do things alone. And when I got older, and I would say probably around 18, 19, just starting college. It's really, really hot in the valley. I would go and run outside, but if it was too hot to run, I would jump on a treadmill to get my miles, because I'm somebody that has to burn off excess energy or I'm not productive. And the byproduct is it also makes you look pretty good.
Yeah.
And then after I graduated from college, I started a career as an educator, and I taught elementary school for 19 years.
Oh, wow.
And right after my son was born, he was born in 2007, so I would say around 2008 or 2009, I had just recently left the husband that I was with, the husband of my 2 children, was getting a divorce. It was a bad time for me, and so what's the best thing you can do is keep yourself busy. So, just going out and running wasn't enough for me. I needed something else. So I joined a gym. I started trying out different classes, started figuring out what worked for me, what didn't, started educating myself about diet, fitness, but as just anybody would, reading articles, things like that. And then I started taking spin class, and it was good cross-training for me for my running, because it's non-impact or low impact, I should say. And it helped me grow more muscles in my legs and glutes. I had a spin instructor that took interest in my enthusiasm for taking spin class. And one day he stopped me and said, you should get certified, because you should be teaching. You some of this you're doing so well that you could be in front of them and showing them, what you're doing and giving your expertise and things like that. And so I begrudgingly took a spin instructor course at UTPA through Mad Dog, which is the home of spinning, I guess you would say. They're the ones that created indoor cycling.
Really? Out of UTPA? Or...
No, the Mad Dog.
Mad Dog Athletics.
Mad Dog. Okay.
Yeah. So there was an instructor giving a course at UTPA, and you pay your fee and you take the course.
Interesting.
Take your exam. It's physical and it's a written exam. And I liked what I learned. I got a good crash course in how our body functions and how it relates to exercise and how you need to eat when you're doing,
That's where I struggle.
Yeah.
How you need to eat. I can't get a hold of that.
I have come to the conclusion that more people would be on this exercise journey if you got the results faster. Like, it took me a long time to see the results that we got.
Haven't seen the
Well, I went pretty extreme. Yeah. And sometimes my mind goes to those extreme places because I have to see if I can do it. But I get it. Like, going through this journey, it takes so damn long. I get why people just give up. It's like, it's overwhelming.
It's hard to be patient.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I'm not a patient person. Well,
everything about where we live now is like teaching us not to be patient.
Right.
Instant gratification.
My patience is situational. I have endless patience for children, but not for traffic.
Yeah.
Not waiting for things that I'm anxious to do, stuff like that. But yeah, the waiting is the hardest part. And when you're not, people work out and then we'll go home and get on the scale right afterwards. And,
yeah.
I remember back when I was teaching spin, before I started doing personal training clients one-on-one, I would tell my members, when you get home, if you choose to get on the scale, that's fine. But if you get on the scale and you notice that you weigh a pound less than you did before you came to spin class, you did not lose a pound of fat. You lost water. So drink water until you get that pound back.
Oh, wow.
You know, because you shouldn't be walking around dehydrated. Your organs need water.
It's an interesting concept because I never really understood that. And we had this conversation on Instagram is where I was dieting and I hated the food that I was eating. It was broccoli. And
you were mentioning broccoli.
I'm
like, stop eating broccoli.
I was on a cascade against broccoli. Remember I went through like 2 weeks of hating on broccoli?
I mean, why?
I just, so this is the thing is like as a man, I'm trying to get rid of as much estrogen in my body as possible.
Right.
So my belly fat, my man boobs, all that stuff, I've had it my whole life. I've never known what it's not like. So the extreme level is like eat a shitload of broccoli every single day. And I got tired of it. And that's why I messaged like, am I doing this right?
Yeah.
It's like, you shouldn't hate the food that you are eating.
No, because, I mean, there are so many different ways to get in those nutrients. You don't have to eat foods that you hate. But some of those foods that you hate, there are ways you can, like, fit them into your diet without tasting them necessarily. And
shakes are a great thing.
Shakes make it a lot easier, and it doesn't necessarily have to be a shake with like a protein powder. It can be, a shake with just fruits and veggies. But I mean, like this morning, I made myself a shake. I'm not a big meat eater. I'll eat meat for dinner or fish or something like that. But during the day, no, I don't have an appetite for it. It'll gross me out and it'll kind of slow me down. So the easiest thing for me to do to keep myself satiated and have enough energy to train my clients and work out myself is to supplement with a protein shake. Whey protein doesn't work for me so well anymore, so I've switched to a vegan alternative because it doesn't make me feel bloated, doesn't make me feel heavy. And in that shake, it's usually berries. If I feel like I need that extra potassium, like I've been having muscle cramps, I might throw in some banana. And I always throw in a cup of spinach, dark leafy greens. You need them, antioxidants, vitamins, minerals. And spinach also has protein in it. So we forget that some of the vegetables that we eat have protein. Mm-hmm. Is it the same quality of protein or the same type of protein that you're getting from animal proteins? No, but it will help.
Yeah.
So
interestingly enough, I switched over to whey protein now. I was on the organic stuff, and then I read somewhere that whey protein, it gets absorbed into your body a lot more than plant-based.
It does, yeah.
So I started doing that, and I've noticed a little bit of a difference in the training part. But kind of talk about protein, because I think it's an important part, because I've been reading that people don't get anywhere near the amount of protein that they should be getting in on a daily basis.
Yeah,
Most populations don't. And keep in mind that all the advice I'm giving you or anything that I say is, is something that you have to go out and research this stuff for yourself. You have to talk to your doctors, and you have to take into account what is your current physical situation? What are your current dietary needs?
It's funny because you say that, because right now you said, I don't eat meat or like these things during the day because I feel heavy or it gets me. I think that a lot of people don't realize that feeling is a result of what they ate. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely true.
Yeah, then we grow up and they feed us, and then we eat a certain way, and then whether it was your parents that fed you a steak or a cheeseburger or whatever, and then you feel this draining weight over you or this exhaustion, and people just think that that's normal, but it's really not. Like, there are foods out there that can, that's why we have terms like little food comas and little, things. Yeah. I just recently learned that. Like, I can tell now, I'm 43 years old, and I can tell now, if I eat that, it's gonna
You're not gonna like the way you feel.
I'm not gonna like the way I feel afterwards.
And that's important.
So listening to your body,
because if you feel awful, are you going to want to go train?
Are you going to want to train?
You feel
absolutely
heavy
not.
And bloated. Yeah. So before I talk about what I think as far as protein supplementation or how much protein you should have in your diet, let me first give you my experience with dealing with protein. So the first time I really paid a whole lot of attention to my protein intake was when I decided that I was going to go ahead and compete. And it was not my idea to compete. I'm not going to call him out right now, but the same friend that encouraged me to become a spin instructor, I had done an event with him where I had done the running leg of a try. Mm-hmm. It was a group event. And we had one person that did the swim. She killed it. he did the biking portion, and they both didn't really like to run so much. When I loved to run, I was, doing that stuff for fun at that time. So he invited me to do the run. I did that, and then I ended up training for a half marathon. Then I did a marathon. The last marathon I did, fractured my foot and realized that I probably shouldn't be running long distance anymore. Doctors advised me to find something else to do. And so I remember this same guy saying, hey, what's your next event going to be? Because we were always signing up for different events. I said, I don't know, because I'm going to have to quit the running and figure something else out, something else to work towards. And then he sent me a screenshot of the local not local bodybuilding, but the one they hold here in McAllen. And he said, send me your credit card information because I need to sign you up for this for the bikini competition. I said, there's no way in hell I'm going to go walk around, prance on stage,
get
in a
judged
bikini,
by everybody.
And bend over and show my glutes to a panel of judges and an entire audience. Are you nuts? And it wasn't because I felt good in the body I was in at that time. I've never really been overweight. I mean, a little bit maybe after having my kids, but it came off right away. Yeah. So I've never had a battle with obesity or being overweight. So I can't quite relate. However, when you're getting ready for a bodybuilding competition, the dieting is so extreme and the workouts are so extreme that it helps you to understand what it's like for somebody to make a total switch from doing nothing to doing a lot, and from eating whatever they want to having to eat in a restricted way or in a disciplined way. So I thought about it for a while, and he kept just nagging me about it, so I said, okay, fine, I'll do it. And you're supposed to take anywhere from 12 to 16 weeks to prepare for a bodybuilding competition.
12 to 16 weeks isn't
And bikini, you don't have to be super big, so, right? Yeah. And so at that point, I think I had 10 weeks to get ready.
Damn.
Didn't know how to pose, didn't know anything about how to get the right kind of bikini, didn't know how to eat for it, train for it, nothing. So I got on the internet, started looking shit up. What do? And I took the advice of experts that, I saw in the bodybuilding arena. And then right as I was getting towards the tail end of it, I consulted with another local trainer who had competed and wanted to get some tips on posing. So I paid that trainer to, teach me how to pose and everything, and did that show. And I remember asking, is what I'm doing okay? This is what I'm eating right now. And I remember the trainer saying, I think I was still having peanut butter or something. And the trainer said, you're still eating peanut butter? You should not be eating peanut butter like 4 weeks out, Because, well, everybody has their approach, right?
Yeah.
But that, the strategy that this trainer was accustomed to or would use, from what I remember, is, you start the protein content really high and the carbs really high because you're trying to build muscle, right? You need those two macronutrients. And the fat stays pretty low because you have to stay in a controlled calorie count, right? So you got to take the calories from somewhere.
Yeah,
so,
fats are usually high in calories.
Right. So you don't get as much bang for your buck as far as the calories that are going to help you build muscle. So the protein's really high, the carbs are really high, and then as you go throughout the weeks, you gradually start dropping the grams of carbohydrates that you're ingesting until the last couple of weeks, you're taking in little to no carbohydrates at all whatsoever, and you're just consuming protein for the most part. And the protein I was having leading up to that was, whey protein, tuna, egg whites.
It's hard to eat a ton of protein.
And I was nauseous all the time because it's not like me to eat that way. It's not what agrees with me.
I know when I started with getting higher protein in, like, for example, they didn't teach us that stuff. I get the shits all the time. And I was like, oh, I thought it was normal. All right, cool, whatever. It's going out. And then I think I talked to you too. It's like, oh, that's not supposed to happen. Like,
right.
So I actually now have increased my protein pretty high.
If your bowel habits are interfering with your daily life, there's probably
It's
something
probably
that-
something wrong.
Yeah.
So as a novice, I don't know those things. I just
Right.
assume like I'm gonna shove all this protein in my mouth, and all right, cool, I got it in.
And it's the opposite for me. I tend to not get enough fiber when I try to cram down a lot of protein, and then I have trouble with my bowel movements. They're not so
Graphic.
gentle.
Right.
Yeah. You know.
So let me just say that the general recommendation on protein intake is anywhere between 0.8 to 1.2 grams per kilogram of body weight. Per kilogram of body weight. But then you look elsewhere, you look at bodybuilding forums or other, fitness gurus, and a lot of them will say, well, you should have 1 gram to 2 grams per pound of body weight. Well, that's a lot more protein than the 0.8 to 1.2 grams per kilogram of body weight, right? So if I weigh 125 pounds, then according to bodybuilding rules, I should be ingesting anywhere between 125 to 250 grams of
That's a ton.
protein. That would be really hard for me to do personally. And then, if I'm going the other way, of course, that protein is going to drop below the 100 grams if I follow the 0.8 to 1.2 kilogram per kilogram rule.
Plus, protein's expensive. Well, the quality protein.
Yeah, it is expensive, and grocery prices are going up, and people say it costs more to eat healthy than it does to pick up fast food, and that's true in the short term, but in the long term, it costs you more.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It costs
way
you.
more.
It costs you
Your
years.
health.
It costs you medical bills. It costs you quality of life.
Let me ask you
And that's
this.
too expensive for me. So
It really is. I've noticed this a ton, and I notice it now more. I guess now that I'm just more aware, like when older people get up, they have like a hard time getting up, and
Right.
we're doing this functional training and lifting heavy. So I get the benefit of having a trainer. I've never understood it before until we actually had a trainer that was showing us exactly how to do that stuff, because we didn't learn this stuff in high school.
Got
We didn't learn this
results
stuff.
until I got a trainer.
Yeah, and it's that he's
Now, in
helping
high
us
school, you're
go that
doing
extra
what
thing.
the coach tells you to do, or you're running drills. They aren't really telling you how to eat. I mean, at least my coaches weren't
Yeah.
in school. So.
No, it's interesting too, because like all the stuff that we're doing, like we see the benefits now. When we were starting, it was like, do we really need this stuff? Because I didn't think I was gonna be doing this.
I'll take you.
You didn't
5
think you're
months.
going to stick to
Yeah,
it?
I didn't think I was gonna
Yeah.
stick to it. So
I was actually looking forward to quitting right when we started. Like
Couldn't
after
wait for the little trial to be over?
Yes, I couldn't wait for
Yeah.
him to be like, "Are you done with this shit already?" Because I am. But he never quit, and then I never quit, and now the results are.
it goes to the partner thing too. Like
Oh
if we
my
weren't
God,
working out
yeah.
together, we probably wouldn't be
would've
pushing
quit.
each
It
other.
helps to have somebody that's in it with you and can help keep you accountable. And hey, are you going to show up? Because I'm going.
Yeah.
There's a little more
Yes,
pressure to
that I
keep it
think
up.
is. I think that has been key for me, and the trainer himself, and the information we leave with about what we just did and what it benefited, and what to look out for in terms of doing it wrong.
Right.
I feel that aside from the workouts nourishing our bodies and kind of things, I think that he's really, really good at explaining to us why we're doing it, what is the next move after this that he's teaching us. So it's always been very, very informative. I can go into any gym and look at a machine and kind of figure out how it works.
Right.
But I don't know if I'm doing it right. I
Yeah.
don't know if I'm using the right weight. I don't know if I'm straining myself or
Yeah.
whatever. And Mike and I hope he's my only trainer that I've ever experienced. But I hope that other trainers are as vocal and as informative as he is in terms of why you're doing this, what it's helping, and he doesn't bullshit. Every time I ask him, when does this get easier? And he says, it never does, Rob.
Right.
Never
He
does.
says, if you're here because you want to be here until it's easy enough for you to just like do it all the time and not sweat or not grunt, he says, then you're in the wrong hobby kind
I
of thing.
completely agree with him. I've commented on like what I've seen as far as the training. I've told Josh that the strategies he's having used in training, I'm 100% on board with. Like,
Yeah.
you're being trained well.
Well, that's good because
what I can see.
wouldn't know. You
Yeah.
know, I only know what I take away
And
from
you're
it.
seeing the results.
Yeah,
You're sticking
yeah,
to it, right?
definitely, yes.
So, you know, the proof's in the pudding.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, I think that the education part is the part that's missing for most people. And I remember when I was training in a big commercial gym, I remember I would go up to the PT room and get ready to start training my client, and occasionally there would be another trainer in there with their client. And you could always tell when the trainer had planned it and when they hadn't. And I can tell you that most of them didn't seem to have planned those sessions because, you know, they'd be like, okay, give me 20 burpees.
Yeah.
Why?
Yeah.
Why do they need to do 20 burpees? Why are they there? Well, you know, and that would be any kind of client. I mean, they might tell a 65-year-old man to do burpees, but they also just told the 32-year-old mom to do burpees. Do they both need to be doing burpees? Do they both have the same goals?
Right.
Probably not.
Yeah, I remember when we went in first and Mike was asking us what our goals were. We won't say them on here, but I wanted the aesthetic as fuck program, right? And Mike was like, all right, cool, man, we got you. But then we see like these kids next to us like doing the sports stuff, and I was like, dude, that looks cool too. Can we do that? I was like, wait, what do you guys want? So he specifically tells us like, all right,
Because
guys,
the training differs.
yeah, the training
anyway.
different. And I didn't understand. I just assumed that we could just do anything and just grow muscles, and that's not the case. And I know now we're taking advantage of the newbie muscle gain. Like, I know there's a phase in the first year where you grow.
Will probably
Can you talk about
experience
that?
A little plateau at some point. Absolutely. So the body won't change unless you force it to, right? That goes for our muscle mass, and it goes with and it as far as our bone density too. So if you are stressing your muscles in a way they've never been stressed before, you're putting demand on the muscle. The muscle has to respond. And the muscle responds by first the muscle tissue gets torn up, and then it has to rebuild, right? And then we need those certain macronutrients to help us rebuild. It's really hard to build muscle if you are in a calorie deficit. I'm not saying it can't be done, but it's more difficult. And if you are in a calorie deficit, it's even more important to keep your protein on the much higher end to preserve muscle mass, especially for women. When women are cutting down on their body weight and they're in a calorie deficit, it eats up our muscle mass a lot faster because we don't have the same hormonal structure as a man does. You are built to build muscle. And unfortunately, you know, women's bodies were designed to nurture and grow live for the most part. And so a woman's body wants to hold on to fat because it keeps your hormones
in check.
And it keeps you fertile enough to reproduce. And having gone through the extreme version of dieting, I can tell you that it does affect you hormonally. It affects your menstrual cycle and all that. You will a lot of people stop having periods altogether. Well, if that's not normal, and if that's happening, then that's probably not sustainable and probably not good for you long term, right? So you have to have adequate protein to build muscle. You have to have constant new stress to the muscle, and that can be done through various methods and different. You can change different variables. For example, when you're first starting out, you may be able to easily gain muscle mass doing lightweight, high rep. I know there are weightlifting classes that are really popular in big gyms, and they're might be 20 to 30 people, and they're all doing the exact same routine, and they're using relatively low weight because the repetitions are very high. And you know, they have an instructor they can follow, and they've got people around them doing the same thing, so it feels really good. But what usually happens to most of those people is at some point they kind of level out. They kind of stop growing because there's only so much weight you can load on in those classes and on those kinds of bars that they're using, so you end up kind of stalling out. But you can maintain that way. So if you got to where you want to be using that group class, and you're happy right there, there's
And that's
nothing
all you
wrong
need
with
to do.
staying right there and going to that class for as long as you want.
Mm-hmm.
However, if you're trying to still change your body composition, or you're still trying to achieve a certain kind of goal, better cardiovascular health or whatever, then you have to change your training to get your body to adapt. If you don't change the variables, why does the body have to change? You're not putting new demands on it.
Yeah.
So then you can change your training in another way. So, you know, one thing you could do is start lifting heavier weight, because that's a new type of stress on the muscle, causes the muscle fibers to tear. They have a reason to grow now. They've got to respond to the new stress. And another way that you can do it is keeping more time under tension. So maybe you're not quite ready to move up too much on the weight, but you still want to keep growing, so you can slow down the repetitions, for example. So, you know, let's say you're doing a bicep curl. You lift it at, you know, a quick rep maybe, and then release it really, really slow. The concentric phase is where the muscle is shortening, right? Mm-hmm. So normally when you're working on hypertrophy, they'll tell you to do a quick rep, like maybe about a 1 second rep, and then you release the weight slowly, you know, 2 to 4 seconds on the eccentric part of the movement, the lengthening part of the movement. So it might be up at 1 and then down at 2, 3, 4.
Okay.
So that's supposed to stimulate the anabolic phase of the muscle and encourage growth. So that's another way you can do it. You can also put more time and attention by lifting it slower, going up really slowly. That's more time and attention for the muscle. It has to work harder. That can help stimulate growth. You have to play with the variables. So if you've been doing your training one particular way for an extended period of time, let's say 3 to 6 months, and you've experienced growth, you've experienced changing your body composition, but you're not satisfied yet, now it's time to change the training variables. And so then you experiment with things, experiment with more time.
The experimenting part is the hard part, because that takes a while. And I know when people are on a journey, they want to keep seeing that scale go down and down and down. And mentally, for me, I was like, I'm getting all these, I'm losing all this weight. Why am I going to want to stop?
What you have to remember is that, okay, so you've been on your journey for 5 months, right?
5 months.
Okay, so it took you 5 months to get where you are right now. You want to get to the next stage. Why do you expect that part to happen in a month or two?
Right.
It might be another 5, 6 months. It might be another year.
Yeah, and that's the psychology I had to learn. Like, all right, this is going to take a long time. This is like that. You're not something you do for 5 months.
Well, and there are ways to do it fast, but those are ways that you're hacking your body that probably aren't good for your body long term. Supplementations and
I'm supplementing. So one of the things that I've started to do is fasting, and I got on this fasting journey. I think I've been doing it for like 3 months, maybe ish.
Yeah.
But I found that it works well for me. I fast on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays, and we do fasted workouts.
Full 24 hours?
Yeah, full 24 hours. So I'll stop eating like at 6, and then I'll eat after a workout at 7 the next day.
Right.
But I found that it helps me load up the protein. As soon as the workout's over, I load up on protein and
You're hungry
creatine.
enough to take it in.
Yeah, and I think at that point it absorbs more into my body. So I'm kind of timing my intake of food to kind of maximize the best results. Because I'm trying to find the most efficient way to possibly do this in the shortest amount of time. If it's one thing, I try to be efficient in everything.
Yeah.
But I found that this works. And I look back and I've lost significant weight twice in my life. Right. And then what happened was I drink alcohol, and then I just stop, and it's like everything just started imploding. But I found that now I've moved away from alcohol, and I'm keeping this consistent thing going, and it's kind of restructuring. Body recomposition is what it's called.
Right.
So I'm managing my calories now, and I figured out that it's 12,500 calories to 13,000 calories that'll lose 2 pounds on the dot every single week.
But is that for him or you specifically, or will that work for anybody?
Technically, you can lose 2 pounds of body fat healthily per week. Is that
that's that. They don't recommend you go above that 2 pounds.
Above that, and see, for me before,
if you're going above that, you're probably eating into your muscle mass a bit, and you're probably not getting in enough nutrients and calories to keep your body running the weight
below that.
Yeah, see, for me, I was like, no, I'm going to lose as much weight as possible. But then when I learned that philosophy, I was like, okay, this is the right way to do it by still gaining muscle in the process. So I'm kind of biohacking the body in a sense.
Yeah.
So
my thoughts on fasting and any diet really are, if it works for you and you're in good health and your doctor's not against it and you have no pre-existing conditions that are going to be affected by your diet strategy, go for it. But make sure you're getting in all the vitamins and minerals that you need. Make sure you're getting in enough calories to sustain yourself. And if you're noticing any adverse effects, don't keep it up just because you've decided this is what you're going to do.
Yeah.
What are the, I know that like when you say, for instance, make sure that you're getting this is what you need and you're getting this much intake. I just don't know. Like how does a novice, somebody who's never worked out, go about figuring out this stuff? Is it like
The
through
diet
YouTube?
part.
And like what, how do I?
I mean, you can easily Google, you know, how much protein should a woman weighing 130 pounds take per day, and you're going to get so many different answers.
Well, that's what I mean. Like how does one go about figuring out what's right for them? Just trial and error?
I would say you start on the low end of the recommendation and see how you do with that, and then gradually increase, because there is the other side of it where if you're taking in way too much protein, it can have adverse effects on the kidneys too. So, you know, you want to proceed with caution, and you don't want to change your diet out too often, because you need to give enough time to see, one, does it work, and how am I feeling on it? And if you are constantly changing your strategies, you can't really tell what's working and what's not, or why. And then as far as the vitamins and minerals that you need to take in, that's also going to be dependent on your physical health. So, you know, somebody that is experiencing a loss in bone density is going to have different needs than, you know, a 14-year-old kid, right? So that's something that I would say, talk to your doctor about.
Yeah, and
how much calcium should I be taking in? Because if you go have your blood work done, you might find out that you are deficient in certain vitamins and minerals, but you don't know unless you get a look inside your body, by having these tests run.
And that's what I was worried about. Like when I started fasting, I really didn't talk about it for a while, because the last thing I want to do is say, go try fasting, dude. It's the best thing in the world. And then somebody ends up that can't do it physically, right, or mentally, emotionally, whatever it is. They can't do it.
It's not good to share what you're doing or what you're working on, because sometimes you get a lot of input that you don't need and you don't want, and
just clutters your thoughts. Yeah.
It distracts you and makes you think you need to do something different. So you kind of have to shut out the noise,
yeah,
and stick with something for a while and see how it's working for you. And when you find that you're not experiencing the growth that you were experiencing before, change the training variables, change the diet strategy. So it could happen that this fasting strategy that you're doing will work for you for a certain length of time, and then maybe you're not seeing what you want to see, no matter how much protein you take in on your feed days. And so you might find out that, when I'm working out fasted, I don't quite have the power that I need to lift heavier to force my muscles to grow. I don't quite have the energy I need to keep more time under tension or to do these really difficult compound movements, because those heavy free weight compound movements, deadlift, squat, overhead press, clean press, all that stuff, bench press, it's a huge physical demand on the body. Yeah. It's very taxing on the body, and it's hard to do that while fasted. And I know going through trying to get ready to get on a stage and dieting really hard, it was a lot harder to lift when I was on the last 2 weeks than it was at the beginning of the cycle.
Simply through your intake.
Yeah, because if I'm going and fasted, if I'm fasted, I start shaking. My hands will be trembling like this. Well, if I'm doing nothing and I'm shaking because I haven't eaten all day, what's going to happen to me when I work out?
Mm-hmm.
Maybe I won't pass out or throw up or anything, but am I giving my body what it needs to get a good session, to encourage growth, or to improve my physical fitness in any way? Maybe not. But some people might be able to go and fasted and they're fine. They can go really hard and they can refeed the next day, and it keeps working for them. So
I've experienced both. Because he got me into the fasting after I started seeing his results, and I started And I think the first 2 times that I worked out while fasted were a breeze. Like I was like, oh wow, like I can feel my, you know, my energy's still there. But then I think the second week of fasting, I just had zero energy. Like I got there and I could not even finish the exercises, the hour.
Did you experience the brain fog and things like that?
Yeah, like I just couldn't even. Mike, our instructor, was telling us what to do, and I was listening and hearing, and I understood everything, but I couldn't get my mind to put it into action. Kind of, it was just in a daze, like a fog. You know,
Right.
I know where I'm at, but I can't get to that corner. So you would say that is as a result of.
It could be.
Could be.
Yeah, it could be because also on the other end of that, I've noticed when I fast, but I eat carbs at the end of the night, I have energy for the workouts
Because
the
you got
next
carbs
day.
in reserve.
Yeah, I got carbs in
So,
reserve. So it's manipulating what you're doing.
I don't know if you all are friends with people that like run for fun or run marathons for fun.
I hate
crazy
cardio.
people like that.
Yeah,
I pick it in front of Mike's like, no cardio today.
I'm one of the very few people that I can say with, you know, I love cardio. I love it. I do it almost every single day.
Wow. Yeah.
But I do it because I like it, not because I feel
a
like I
zen
have
place,
to do
yeah.
it. It's because I need it. It's good for my brain. I do when I'm planning out client sessions for the following week. A lot of that happens in my head while I'm on my spin bike.
Oh wow.
Gotcha.
You know, and I also like solitary activities. I mean. You won't catch me with a big group of people very often. I like to work out alone. I like to do most things alone.
Yeah.
So because I need to focus.
Absolutely.
I've got clinical ADHD, so I need to block out any distractions coming my
Put the
way to
blinders
get
on
the
and
best.
just focus.
Absolutely. So when my body's in motion, it quiets my mind so that I'm not
Interesting.
thinking about a million different things. And so cardio makes me feel good.
Yeah.
But if cardio makes you feel awful, you got to think about why it's making you feel awful. Is it because it's boring? Is it because it doesn't feel good because don't have the cardiovascular endurance to sustain the activity? So you got to think about why. But don't do exercise that you hate either. If you hate running, don't run. I remember when I was an avid runner, you know, and I would share what I was doing, and you know, you'll see the you know, those memes like, you know, nobody cares how many miles you ran today. Nobody cares you got on the treadmill. Like, don't post it or whatever. But I mean, you know, I was just posting whatever.
It's quite the achievement.
I was doing.
Like I get it because it's very fulfilling to me when we finish a hard ass workout. Like I feel accomplished. Like it feels good to finish the workouts that we're going through. But I hate cardio.
Right.
So Mike is like, well, okay, and let's try jump roping. Let's try other things. So we'll kind of work around it. But it always goes back to you guys need cardio. He's asking me like if I did cardio out.
Yes, no, I'll get into that. But I remember people messaging me asking me like, hey, how can I get into running? Or I hate running. Like, how can I get into it? I'm like, well, if you hate running, don't get into it. Don't do it. Because it's a lot of wear and tear on the body. I mean, I'm living proof of that. I don't run anymore because I fractured my foot so badly that it's never going to be the same again. So it is what it is. But I can get cardio in other ways.
My wife and I used to go do a spin class in Westlaco that I found extremely difficult to finish.
If you're doing spin right, it should be hard the whole time.
Yeah, it was extremely difficult, but I felt that the atmosphere, the dark lights and the strobe lights and the club kind of vibe and the music was right, kind of pushed me through it. That kind of cardio.
That's why I love spin.
Yeah.
That's why I love teaching spin. I did it for years. I don't do it anymore because I'm not part of a commercial gym anymore. I'm on my own. But yeah, I do miss teaching spin. It's like being in a club, but working out.
But working out, yeah, that was the funnest type of cardio that I've done. But when Mike says, all right, man, give me 3 laps around the building, I'm like, yeah,
Surprisingly
that
enough,
sucks.
Yesterday's cardio, when he had me running around, I did it pretty easily.
Pretty easy, yeah.
So which is surprising because I hadn't done that type of cardio in a while, in
We're
a few
5
weeks.
months in, man, and you're eating right and fasting, and so your body is
It's
ready for it.
But
Your body's running efficiently.
Yeah.
running efficiently.
Okay, so let's just take cardio, right? Do you need cardio? Yes
Hesitation.
and no. Yes and no. What you do need to regularly raise your heart rate and challenge your heart. because you need good cardiovascular health. You need a strong heart. If you don't have a strong heart, you know, you're not pumping blood efficiently to all the organs and
That you're trying to grow, yeah.
Right? And we know that heart disease is one of the leading killers. So, yeah, you do need good heart health. But do you have to run to get it? No. Anything that raises your heart rate significantly, that's cardio.
I should be.
So I was telling you, I don't remember how
About
long
lifting,
ago.
yeah, heavier weights.
You said something to me about how much you hate cardio, and I said, well, the type of training that you're doing, the type of lifting you're doing, you don't necessarily have to do cardio, because I guarantee you, if you're doing a whole rounded clean and press, your heart rate's probably
we're huffing
up
and puffing.
between the 70 and 80% of you're probably at 70 to 80% of your heart rate, or maybe even a little higher, depending on how hard you're going, how much you're lifting, you know, how much rest you're taking in between. So you're experiencing the cardiovascular benefit when you're doing that type of lifting. Now, let's talk about people going to the gym and getting on machines and lifting. I can work my quads by doing squats, right? And I can also work my quads by sitting down at a leg extension machine. Which one's going to raise my heart rate more?
The first one.
Right, squats. Because you're standing up. First of all, standing up, I'm already burning more calories than sitting down. And we live a sedentary lifestyle. So how much are we raising our heart rate above its baseline throughout the day? Not very much, except for walking from here to there.
Yeah.
And some people don't get up all day.
Yeah.
So, and also, you know, I'll get into that later, but there are other structural things that happen to the body when you're sitting all day. So most people don't get any kind of challenge to their heart rate throughout their day, because we are generally living a sedentary lifestyle. And so a lot of people think, you know, I hate cardio, but I'm going to go in and lift. But lifting, what you're doing, compound movements and sports-specific training, things like that, that raises your heart rate significantly. You're probably good without any running or any other outside cardio if you're doing that regularly. But if all I do is go in the gym and do leg extensions and bicep curls if I'm strictly sticking to machines, I'm probably not raising my heart rate very much. When I do leg extensions and when I'm wearing my Apple Watch, I keep track of my heart rate all the time. And I'll look down and, you know, let's say I might see it go up an extra 10 beats at the most. But if I'm squatting, I'm going to be
it's going through
at the
the
upper
roof.
end of my heart rate.
Yeah.
So I want to spend more of my time doing that. And also, if I'm working at the upper end of my heart rate, you're burning more calories. So when your heart is pumping harder, your body's, you know, metabolism is stoked and you're burning more calories. So it's so many little factors in fitness that affect the way your body adapts and changes and grows or doesn't.
Yeah, it's a very interesting thing, because I've noticed, like, the cardio version, like when we do those big compound lifts, we're like huffing and puffing. It's like, dude.
So you're getting your cardio. But then, okay, so then let's get to powerlifting, right? All bodies matter. All bodies are beautiful. So this is not a judgment. This is just an observation. If you look at powerlifters, they tend to have higher body fat than people walking the stage in a bodybuilding competition. And those guys that are doing bodybuilding, they get jacked. They're huge, right? And the guys doing powerlifting are big too, but they also have more body
thick
fat.
layer of fat over them.
Yeah, and some of them might have, their cardiovascular health might be fine, and some of them maybe not. And that type of training, they're going for really heavy lifts and they're doing less repetitions, because if you're working on maximal strength development, you're not going to be able to, you know, push out 12 reps if you're lifting at the most that you can pick up. You're going to be between probably a 1 to 3 rep range. And so are they getting the cardiovascular benefit in the same way that somebody like you is in the type of training you're doing? Probably not. So that person might, you know, that just loves powerlifting, that person may need some outside cardio. But it could be as simple as taking a brisk walk.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be running. It doesn't have to be spinning. It doesn't have to be get on a treadmill, or it can be whatever you want. It could be dancing.
Yeah. What's interesting about that is I've noticed that like when we were, I told Rob, I was like, hey, I can't wait till we can double our weight in squats. And then we started watching stuff, and then I started feeling my knees like kind of hurting. I was like, maybe I don't want to lift heavy anymore.
So yeah, then there's that factor too. So when you embark on training, sometimes we don't know why we're starting. Sometimes just as simple as, you know, you want to look better or you want to feel better. And then as you progress through training, sometimes your goals change and you realize maybe you really like lifting and you want to challenge yourself to, you know,
to a weight
squat
limit, yeah.
300 pounds, you know, after you've been squatting 200 or something. And so those are great goals to have. And if you enjoy that and it's keeping you going, then do that. But I think it's easier for people to get into a place where they're happy in their bodies and they feel good day to day when they embark a new fitness or diet plan. And I hate even using the word diet because it sounds restrictive, right? But diet just means what you eat. It doesn't mean restriction. If you look up in the dictionary, diet is just what you eat. It doesn't mean a plan, right? So it's a lot easier if you know why you're starting. So, you know, when I bring in a new client or consult with somebody that is thinking about training, the first thing I want to know is, you know, other than their medical history and, you know, all of that, is I want to know, well, why do you want to train? What is it that you're looking to get out of this? And the answer is different for different people. I would say a good, you know, 80-90% of the people that I've worked with are there because they want to look better. But a good percentage of those people have also had other underlying medical conditions. I've had people that are pre-diabetic, hypertension, people that have recovered from cancer, rheumatoid arthritis, and regular arthritis, you know, just age and wear and tear, low bone density. I mean, there are a lot of other factors that come into play with training, and those things have to be addressed too. So if you go into training just thinking, well, I just want to look better, or I just want to drop 20 pounds, you have to understand, well, you know, what does looking better mean to you?
Right.
For some now, like we were talking early before we started filming, I was talking about like fitness trends, you know, and I was talking about how when I was a kid, you know, looking at magazines, you know, in the aisle with my mom buying groceries, it was all about like being rail thin, being as skinny as possible, reducing your butt, getting a smaller butt. Like back then,
the supermodel look.
Yeah, back then, you know, women my mom's age definitely didn't want their butts to be too big. It wasn't in fashion at the time, you know. Heroin
I feel like
chic
Selena's the one that made that happen.
I think that was like what, like early mid-90s? Yeah, early 90s. So, well, her and Sir Mix-a-Lot, I would say, helped usher in
the big butt era.
Yeah, and music videos, things like that, changed what we view as, you know, aesthetic perfection or whatever. Now, if you walk the aisles, the articles are like how to grow your backside, how to grow your glutes, right? So now everyone wants their butt to be as big as possible, and they're willing to do anything to get it. You know, some were trying to get it through training, some are trying to get it through, you know, surgical procedures, cosmetic procedures. They just want that look. And, you know, you have to keep in mind what's your body type. And what makes sense for your body,
what's realistic
and what's realistic.
Yeah.
And you know, I could look at any number of models, and I probably can't attain their particular looks. My body's not structured like theirs.
Yeah.
You know, you got to do the best with what
you have.
You've got.
Yeah.
So where do you train people? Do you go to them? Do they come?
I have my own studio.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Okay. Cool. Okay, so then how do they get a hold of you?
They can email me at Bonnie at bonniebuilt.com, and my website is bonniebuilt.com, and they can email me. They can. It's probably better to text than call because I hardly ever have my phone right in my hand. And
Texting is the best thing ever created.
texting is easier for me because it's hard to listen to a message because, I might be doing something at the time and I'll be distracted. But if I can read it and save it, I won't forget to respond. But yeah, I check my messages, several times a day, and I try to get back to anybody that's messaged me about something legitimate.
All ages, men, women, you train?
Yep, I've trained kids. I've trained. The youngest I've trained, I think, is 14, and the oldest I've trained is like early 60s. Yeah, and I've trained men and women.
I never thought that I'd be
on a fitness journey,
or training or anything, I don't even consider it a fitness journey anymore. I think it's just kind of a part of my week.
A lifestyle.
Yeah, like I work out
pretty much what it is.
With Mike, and that's just it.
Well, the interesting concept that I heard, and it kind of switched my mind from, because I heard it once and that's all it took, is that your ideal weight is not your ideal body. That completely changed my mind. I was like, I can lose that. And that goes back to the 2 times that I lost weight, significant weight. Yeah. I lost, I think, 50 pounds at one point, and then like 80 at one point in my life. And I was still never happy with my body, even when I got that low. It's like, you still look in the mirror, and I have this conversation with all the time. It's like, now that we're working out, I look at my body more now than I ever have before. And I kind of like, oh man, I should be further than that. And that goes back to the mentality and the I guess the psychology of this stuff. Is like body dysmorphia is a real thing that I never really paid attention to.
It's definitely a real thing. And I think having forced myself to diet really hard and train really hard and get to a certain aesthetic for stage, that wasn't the body I wanted to live in long term, though. And on stage, it looked really great far away, but if you saw me up close, I mean, I felt like my face looked too gaunt. Without the right kind of makeup, my face looked too gaunt. I had abs and all that, but my ribs were also really apparent, and I didn't quite like that too much. But
as far as like how you felt, did you feel good like with that body, or is it just too low of like body fat too?
I mean, did I feel good the last 2 weeks of getting ready for it? No, did not. All my carbs were cut, and then the last week you're gradually cutting water, so you're dehydrated at the same time. Okay, when you look at a bodybuilding competition, you watch the video or you see the pictures, I mean, they hardly ever show like super close-up shots of the face that probably aren't edited or anything, because backstage everybody looks like beef jerky.
Really?
They're spray tanned beyond belief, and the color up close looks odd. But on stage looks fantastic because you want the shadows to hit you just right so that it shows off all the hard muscle the hard fought muscle you've earned. But up close, I wouldn't say it's super appealing. Up close, my skin looked dry and gaunt, and no amount of makeup could make me look the way I would prefer my face to look.
Yeah.
Little things like that. And that stuff's not super important, but we are affected by what we see in the mirror. And so it's important to be content with how you look, or to be able to accept your image in the mirror and be happy with it. So, and putting the weight back on after competing, because I did 2 shows back to back and thought I would keep going with it. But once I got busy with training clients, I got so focused on that, and plus I was still teaching at the time, teaching by day, training by night, and teaching spin classes.
Of stress, yeah.
Yeah, so I was always working, and weekends too. So I really didn't have the time or the focus to keep on competing. And then after I was away from it a while, I was like, I don't think that's for me anymore. I'm happy in the body I'm in right now. I feel good in this body. I don't think I want to put myself through the physical stress that you have to put on your body to peak.
And also the emotional stress, because that's like a hard thing to do.
It is emotional stress too, because your brain needs carbs. Yeah. Your brain needs carbohydrates to function optimally. And so, towards the last couple of weeks, you're ingesting little to no carbohydrates at all. And I had brain fog all the time. And keep in mind that while I was doing that, I was still, teaching spin class in the morning, teaching school all day long, sometimes tutoring after, then going straight, picking up my kids from school, because I'm a mom. On top of that, get them, take care of what I got to do with them, go straight to the gym, teach spin class, and probably train a client right after that.
Damn.
And then go do it all over again the next day. And I also did it on Saturdays and Sundays, taught spin class and trained clients 7 days a week.
That's crazy because you did that while juggling all that stuff, but also sleep is super important. Your diet's super important, and then you have to throw your workouts on top of that.
So the sleep factor was the thing that had to go.
So you skimped on sleep.
You have to cut something, right? Wow. So I had to cut sleep because you only have so many hours. I had 24 hours to get all the stuff done. And then when I got home from working all evening, there was still stuff to do at home.
Always.
There's still people that needed things from me.
Need your attention.
Right. So, I had people that looked up to me at that time for what I achieved physically changing my body. Because while I was going through it, I posted it. Mm-hmm. And people saw me in my underwear or in my bikini or whatever I was, because, I was showing the body, right? Yeah. And my thought doing that was, I'm just going to let people in on what I'm doing, because I knew that once I was done with those couple of competitions that I was going to focus on personal training and do that. And so I thought, I've never had to diet really hard, so I don't know what that feels like. And doing this will help me to relate more. And people looked up to me at that time because I achieved this aesthetic. And what they didn't realize is that there were a lot of things that were going on with me that weren't healthy. So I was sleeping 1 to 3 hours a night. Jeez. That's not healthy.
Yeah. Being grumpy all day.
Right. And I wasn't really grumpy all day, but I did get hit hard with depression and anxiety and all of that, because your brain can't function optimally on no sleep. And I also have a history of epilepsy, and I had been asymptomatic for many, many, many years. And during that time, I didn't have any problems. I wasn't having seizures or anything like that, even though I was so sleep deprived. But I was not, mentally, I was not at my best. But people thought I was, because I could still
physically
perform.
Look like it.
Yeah, like I'm sure, you might be having a bad day, but as soon as that camera goes on, hey, you're upbeat, ready to go, because that's
that's what you do.
That's what you got to do. So I was able to go really hard and keep this look and teach my classes and all of that, and seemed like I was doing it flawlessly. But the thing that suffered was the sleep. So the sleep is absolutely an important part of training, and it's an important part of your mental health. And if you don't have it, you're going to have a hard time getting your body to do what you want it to do. So when we were all home during quarantine, I was still teaching elementary school at that time. I was doing first grade. And teaching kids through a computer is a whole lot different than teaching them in person. Mm-hmm. Man, I missed
COVID.
being able to do it in person. And I'm sure the parents missed me being able to do it in person too. And parents' schedules are all over the place, and not everybody was really adept at using this new technology. Kids weren't accustomed to learning through a screen. And the district I was with, you would think that, okay, we've got all these challenges, let's simplify the process as much as possible just to make sure we're getting the instruction done. But that's not what happened. Instead, they basically quadrupled the workload for teachers, so that we were spending any time you have camera, you were tutoring kids, or you were doing paperwork, and then once you might get text messages or calls from parents at 8, 9, 10 o'clock at night, because that's when they got off work and there's an assignment due the next day and they don't know how to. So during that time, I was back to that no sleep thing, and I started having seizures like during the day, or being found on the floor, early in the morning, and not knowing how I got there. And the epilepsy reappeared. And I think that was probably because my body had been under stress for so many years. And then, I did it again in a new way. And at that time, I was so exhausted that I wasn't exercising the way I normally did, and I was a mess. I was probably crying every single night, and having the physical aspect of what I was doing during the day taken from me in a way, and not having the time to train, or not being able to train clients or teach spin class, do anything like that, it affected my mental health because I didn't feel as productive, and not sleeping ruined my health for a time, and it took some time to get that back. And so the sleep factor is a non-negotiable.
Crucial,
yeah.
Like you have to realize that it's one of those things that you have to
It's like eating,
make time
sleeping,
for
and
it.
breathing. And they all go together. Like you have
Yeah.
to do it. You have to
Yeah.
get enough.
And
Absolutely.
I have, I've had clients that work really rough schedules and have a lot of demands placed on them. And, you can't completely change somebody's lifestyle for them, but I am always encouraging them, you gotta eat, you gotta sleep, because even if it doesn't affect you in here and it doesn't affect your training too much, it's going to affect you here.
Yeah.
Yeah, psychologically, it's a very interesting thing because we've had a lot of conversations about mental health, and I think since we started training, that's kind of helped us alleviate some of the stress that goes on in life. Can we talk about the mental health aspect of lifting
Mental health,
weights and
yeah.
exercise and stuff like that? Kind of touch on that.
Endorphins that it builds is just, it's a positive thing. I mean, you want the endorphins to help you combat stuff like feeling draggy, feeling depressed or anxiety ridden. So yeah, I feel it.
Yeah. So our mental health can be affected both positively and negatively through training. The positive aspects are, you get that little, that feeling of euphoria, when you've finished a hard workout. You feel good, you feel accomplished, and, you feel successful. And when you feel successful, you want to do it again the next day. It gets you in a good routine, and having a routine it sets you up for success. But then we do have the other end of it where some people do experience body dysmorphia, or maybe they don't have body dysmorphia, but maybe they're never satisfied with what they see in the mirror. And
Even overtraining could be a
overtraining
culprit.
can be a big problem, and overtraining can lead to injury, and it can lead to brain fog and just fatigue
Depression,
in
because
general.
you're getting your high and you're getting that dopamine feed of like, I'm working out, I'm bettering myself, and then you get injured and you can't go hit the gym and you have to recover, and now you feel that the one thing that was helping you
It's gone.
is gone.
Yeah.
That avenue. Now you got to heal whatever.
Yeah, I would
you
say
have.
that's what happened to me during that year where we were all stuck at home. And my mental health took a deep dive because I was taken away from my routine completely. And even though my routine didn't involve a lot of sleep, it still made me feel good in so many other ways that I was able to ignore the sleep factor, which wouldn't have been good for me long term, right? I would have had to cut back at some point. But I missed feeling efficient and feeling productive.
Yeah.
I never felt productive in that situation because no matter how much work I got done, it was never over. It was never done. So I didn't get that satisfaction I got when I was training clients and teaching spin class.
Go ahead,
Yeah, one of the things I had to learn was that patience part. Like, I know now that it's gonna take us. We're gonna work out 3 times a week forever.
Yeah.
So I had to get that into my head now. So I think Mike, what he's trying to do is teach us the foundation of what we need to do to be able to take it and then go apply it ourselves.
Right.
Which is ideal. But I also feel like the trainer aspect of it is something that I need.
I was gonna say, I don't think I'll ever be the person to wake up in the morning and say, I'm gonna go work out by myself, train by myself. I need the trainer presence. I need the camaraderie. I need the, when I'm maxing out and I can't push anymore, and I hear you or Mike in the background like, come on, push.
It's a positive environment.
Positive environment. So I can tell you this. I was never as successful working out until I teamed up with a partner and had a good trainer.
Yeah.
I mean, countless dollars thrown away in diets, Jenny Craig, fitness, memberships at gyms, all this stuff, and I never, ever, ever fell into sync with what I was doing. Today, if I don't work out, I feel like a failure, man. I don't know how I feel unaccomplished. I feel like I messed up, like I didn't do it, you know?
Okay, but we don't want that either.
Well, yeah, but I embrace it.
But you're experiencing that right now because, I mean, you've been in it 5 months, but, you know, in the grand scheme of things, you're still new to it.
Sure, yeah.
And so when you've just recently acquired a new good habit, I think that there's that fear that lives in the back of everybody's mind that if I don't work out for a whole week because I'm sick, or if I missed today because, you know, I had something in my schedule that prevented me from getting my workout in, I'm just, you know.
Yeah, you just quit.
I just ruined everything, or I'm gonna. I think there are people that you know feel like they're gonna get fat, you know, missing one day of training, and you know, it's what you do over a length of time that affects the way you look and the way you feel. And
well, that's kind of what's helped me because I had gotten to the point about 2 months ago where I was feeling really guilty about like eating. Like I'd work out.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Then, yeah, man. And then I'd go home and my wife would have this amazing supper, you know, ready. And I know she, you know, isn't the biggest fond of cooking. So when she goes out of her way to cook,
you feel bad if you don't eat it.
I want to eat, you know,
Yeah.
and she's not a bad cook. She's actually a really good cook, but
Good save.
yeah, I know, you know, but I wanna indulge, and I want to show her that I appreciate the effort, and I eat. And then after I eat, and I got that full filling, and I look at what I ate, and I'm like, fuck, I shouldn't have eaten that. I shouldn't have eaten that. And then
you feel guilty.
I get this guilt, like, fuck. And so, but when I told Mike about that, our trainer, he was like, Robert, it's like running a red light by accident, man. Just keep going and make sure you stop at the next red light, you know? And if you run that light too, we'll just keep going until, he says, eventually you're just gonna start running all the red lights and you're not gonna give a shit, and then you drop out of your sequence. But if you mess up once, don't chop your hands off over it. Just pick up back where you left off.
It's
super conflicting mentally.
It's hard, yeah. That end of it is challenging for most people. They, you know, if they're off their game for a day, then they, you know, they throw it all away and just kind of, you know, revert to old habits. But I mean, yeah, you have to live life, and we socialize over food, and we, you know, a lot of our fond memories are involved
gatherings with food,
like birthday parties and special events. There's usually
it's like, oh, you graduated, let's celebrate, let's go have dinner. Yeah, it's
right.
Yeah.
And you need to be able to live in, you know, I mean, balance. I mean, what's balance, right? I mean, some days we have it, some days we don't. But you want to have some form of balance in your life. You know, I don't recommend embarking on a diet where, you know, if you love to, you know, a ribeye steak, and you embarked on a diet where you are never allowed to have it, are you going to enjoy that diet long term and stick to it long term?
Definitely not.
Probably not. Mm-hmm. And so you know, I'm not a fan of highly restrictive diets unless you like eating that way. If you like eating in a very restricted way and you feel good and you have good mental health, eating that way, okay, that's fine. But most people are not going to be happy that way long term.
I'm moody when I can't eat what I want.
Yeah, before we finish off the podcast, Robert's about to start on his diet, per se.
Okay.
What is the only way, or what is the way you can lose weight or increase muscle mass? Is calorie deficient or an increase, right? Can you kind of touch on that?
So you're trying to drop body fat and gain muscle at the same time?
I've kind
or
of.
You just,
I've gained the muscle.
What is it that you?
I'm kind of like that power lifter people you were talking about earlier.
Okay.
Like I have the muscle mass and I can.
The strength too.
I have the strength to push heavy weight, but I still have this thick layer of fat over me that doesn't accentuate the muscles.
Right.
So I want to cut my fat so
You
that
want your
mus-
muscle to be visible. You want to be able to show it off.
Yeah, you know, when we started with Mike, he said, "What are your goals?" I said, "I just want to be able to take a jog outside without my shirt on and feel good about it."
Yeah.
That's it. I don't want to be ripped and cut and six packed out. I just, back when I was a kid, I could take off my shirt and there wasn't any six packs or pecs, but I didn't feel ugly. I didn't feel fat, or I didn't feel jiggly.
Right.
And I said, so I just want to get back to where I'm toned and I can jog and my breasts aren't hitting me in my face and stuff. I don't want to have to wear a training bra when I go out and jog anymore,
Yeah. Okay, that's fair.
And so now I have the muscle. I'm pushing the weight I want to push. I'm working out with the weights I want to work out with, but I still have that thick layer of happiness all over me.
I would say step one is you got to know where you are right now. So it's helpful to have an in-body, because just going off weight alone doesn't tell you everything. The amount of muscle mass you have compared to the amount of fat you have and everything. I mean, 120 pound woman at 5 feet tall doesn't look the same as a 120 pound woman that's 5'5", right? And so you have to know what your body composition is. And then from there, you can figure out what your resting metabolic rate is, and by your basal metabolic rate. And by that, I mean, if you were in a coma, bedbound, that's the number of calories you would need to sustain yourself.
Okay.
To sustain yourself at the current body mass that you have.
Gotcha.
So let's say you go have an in-body analysis, and let's say you're 200 pounds and you find out that your basal metabolic rate is, I don't know, maybe 2,100 calories. That 2,100 calories is what you need at rest, in bed, not doing anything. As soon as you start doing anything at all, standing up, walking around, even changing clothes from the washer to the dryer, that expends excess, more calories. So now your calorie demands have increased. And then you add training into that, and then your calorie demands have increased even more. So you want to choose a calorie count that allows you to continue to maintain the body mass that you've got, and that can be done by keeping the protein on the higher end and then cutting your calories from your other macronutrients. So let's say you are somebody that consumes a lot of fat. Well, you can easily cut a lot of calories by reducing the fat. Or if most of the bulk of your calories come from your carbohydrates, you can cut down on the carbohydrates a bit, but I would say leave the protein alone to maintain the muscle mass. But so first you have to kind of track what you're eating, because
that took me a month to figure that out.
It takes a long time, and then there are issues with tracking it too, because a lot of us don't track it accurately because we don't. Okay, I've seen it both ways. I've seen people not log in stuff because they feel guilty about it, but it's it still happened.
Yeah.
It's
still there. Yeah.
And then sometimes it's that they aren't putting in the right portions or whatever it is, because if somebody makes you a meal, you don't know how they cooked it necessarily, or how much oil they might have used in the pan.
So it's hard to pick it right.
Like that. So tracking it can be tricky. So while you're tracking it, it's easier if you are the one that's in control of what you're eating, and you're not eating things that are given to you, because it's hard to know what's in it.
Yeah.
So I would track what you're eating for at least a week. Just eat normally and see where your calories are, what the average is. And then start cutting it gradually from there. But I was, do it gradually. If you cut out, and it depends on how fast you want to do it too. 3,200 calories in a pound of fat, you got to be in a deficit of 3,200 calories to lose a pound of fat. But that deficit is over a period of time. So if you're cutting 500 calories a day from your normal calorie intake, well, by the end of the week, you will have lost at least a pound. And then if you're adding in exercise on top of that, then potentially more, and potentially more muscle mass at the same time. So, and
Yeah.
but also everybody's bodies, you know,
It's completely
respond
different,
to diet and exercise differently. So it's really important to try things for a length of time and journal or keep notes or picture diary, whatever works for you, so that you can kind of see, okay, well, when I was eating this way, this is how I felt, this is how I performed, and this is, you know, how my body looked at the end of it. And then you adjust from there. And nobody gets it right the first time.
Yeah, that's the sucky part, because we'd love to get it done the first time. It's like, all right, it's over with. Now we can keep on continuing where we're going.
But you just have to stick with it. And, you know, some people will get it in 3 months, and some people might take a year or two to really, you know, take those habits and own them. And it needs to be something you can do for life. If it's not sustainable, you're not going to keep reaping the benefits of all your hard work. So you have to be able to eat in a way that the diet you choose to get you into that physical shape has to be a diet you can sustain for the rest of your life. You may get to increase your calories a little bit, you know, once you're where you want to be, because you won't need to be in a deficit anymore. But you need to, you know, make sure you've got something you can follow forever. Yeah. Because the goal is optimum health for the rest of our lives. I mean, when you're 80, I don't think you're going to care about what your belly looks like when you go for a walk or a run, right? But you hopefully want to live as long as possible, be around for your family, and, you know, longevity and quality of life is greatly affected by our physical fitness and our diet and our mental health. All of those factors can't be ignored. And if they are, something else is going to suffer. So, you know, aesthetics are what rule us when we go into the gym a lot of the time. But I want to encourage people to think beyond the aesthetics. You might have to just accept that you will always have a few dimples under your butt, you know, a little bit of cellulite. Or you might have to accept that, you know, once you've achieved a certain look, that maybe you're still going to have that extra little, you know, something somewhere. Because we can't control where we lose fat, and we can't control how fast, you know, there are a lot of people that come in, they want to lose their belly, but
it's the last thing to go.
But they don't want to lose. Like, I've had women, because, you know, the bigger legs are more popular right now, right? So I've had women like, I want to lose my belly, but I like my legs the way they are. And I'll tell them, you know, as you're dieting and as you're, you know, losing, we can't control whether or not the fat comes off of your legs or off of your belly first. We have no control over that. However, if you want to keep your big leg look, we can add more muscle in there and change the aesthetics by giving you the full legs with the muscle while we're bringing down the fat everywhere else. And so you might have ripped legs and you'll finally have a flatter belly. Women don't naturally have a really small waistline. We don't get to choose our body structure. You know, if you don't naturally have a waistline, you can grow your shoulders and your back, and then that creates the illusion of a smaller waistline. So you kind of figure it out as you go. And taking pictures, and you don't have to show them to anybody. I mean, I showed the world mine when I was going through, you know, the competing phase, but I don't anymore because I don't care.
Yeah,
you know,
we have before pictures that will probably never be aired.
Yeah, but if at some point, you know, I was, you know, wanted to look a certain way for maybe I decide to compete again one day. Who knows? But I doubt it. Well, then, you know, I would go back to, you know, scrutinizing the aesthetics because I'm trying to reach that particular goal. But I already look the way I want to look. I feel really good, and I can sustain this for the rest of my life. I can do this forever, you know, as long as everything else, you know.
Yeah, falls into place. Well, Bonnie, right? Just tell everybody where they can find you again before we finish off the podcast.
My website is bonniebuilt.com, and you can email me at bonnie@bonniebuilt.com.
Perfect. Cool. All right, guys, we will see you on the next session. So peace.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Boom.